Chapter 18. The number 5. Let us note one more thing in relation to the mysterious number 5. It symbolizes at one and the same time the spirit of life eternal and the spirit of life and love terrestrial in the human compound, and it includes divine and infernal magic and the universal and the individual quintessence of being. The Secret Doctrine, Blavatsky, 2, 612. There is but one temple in the universe, and that is the body of man. Nothing is holier than that high form. We are the miracle of miracles, the great inscrutable mystery. Lectures on Heroes, Carlyle. After the foundation stone has been laid foursquare, the number 5 must next be considered. This is the most deeply occult of all the digits, and few grasp its full significance and what it stands for in their evolution and accomplishment. 5 is the number of humanity and symbolizes man in a twofold aspect, for man stands at the apex of physical evolution, the crowning point of all the lower kingdoms, and the forerunner and image of God, or stands midway between 1 and 10. Man is the universally structured type. In one aspect, all lower types rise toward man and are completed in him. Moreover, man is the only species that stands erect, with cerebrum poised at right angles to the spine, the only species with a spoken language, an alphabet, a recorded history, and a prospective future, one being composed of the 2 and the 3. Number 5 shows that in humanity the terrestrial and the divine meet and blend. By occult addition, 5 equals 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 is equal to 15. Number 15 is sometimes called the devil, but by occult reduction 15 equals 1 plus 5 equals 6, the number of the Christ force, the antithesis of the devil. Therefore, as number 5, man stands midway between the Christ and the devil. Also, number 5 is composed of 2 equal parts with 1 in the middle, thus 2, 1, 2, or man and woman co-equal, with the divine one life as the balance or equalizer of both. Number 5 is composed of 4 and 1, or the foundation of nature and the divine one life manifesting through it. This points to man's true constitution, for he contains within him, even in his physical body, all the principles and forces to be found in manifested nature, and during his intrauterine life passes through stages analogous to the various kingdoms of nature, vegetable, fish, reptile, animal, up to the human. Hence man is a synthesis of the macrocosm, the squaring of all the forces or 4. But he is also the direct intelligent agent of the One, or God's representative on earth. Thus number 5 means man, but man standing upon and dominating the lower, the physical, the human, and reaching up into the higher realms, the divine. For the number 5, like man's 5th principle, mind, is dual. It belongs both to the lower square and to the higher triad. It is man with his 2 feet planted firmly upon the foundation stone on earth, but with his head in the heavens. His feet have 5 toes each because without the dual aspect of his 5 senses, his understanding of the physical plane, the foundation upon which he stands would be imperfect. His 2 hands symbolize his dual power of accomplishing through the higher joined to and dominating the lower. The 5 fingers on each hand symbolize the fact that to be complete or balanced man must manifest 2 5s and become 10. For only by using both his hands can he accomplish his perfect work. He has 2 hands because he must accomplish on the physical plane, by dealing with and using the pairs of opposites according to the law of duality, and by their use be about his father's business, and workshop, field, office, or home, even as Jesus is said to have worked in his father's carpenter shop. But at the same time, he must work out and accomplish his higher mission in helping on the evolution of all the kingdoms, and hence the planet itself. With one hand, he can reach up and take the hand of his Father in heaven and accomplish in the higher realms, and at the same time, he can reach down with the other and help on the evolution of the lower kingdoms, thus uniting spirit and matter in humanity and becoming the universal mediator. 5 is the number of the planet Mercury, ruler of the intelligent principle in man. This is symbolized by the winged messenger of the gods, representing the power which enables man to stand in the center of the universe and either send his thought down into the depths or soar into the highest realms cognizable by man. So does number 5 stand in the center of the numerical system, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, being the only number which is not paired to produce 10, thus, 1 plus 9 is equal to 10, 2 plus 8, 3 plus 7 and 4 plus 6 all equal 10, leaving 5 unpaired, it forming 10 only when joined to another and complementary 5. As 10 is the number of a complete cycle, this proves mathematically that man or 5 can never complete his cycle of evolution and spiritual attainment until his number has been doubled or until he has found his true counterpart or complement. The same truth is revealed in the Bible allegory in which the pairs of birds and animals were brought to Adam to be named, but for Adam there was not found an help meet for him, until he was doubled or until he had found his equal. This again shows that man stands at the middle point of evolution, overshadowing and influencing the kingdoms beneath him, as he is overshadowed and influenced by the kingdoms above him. Therefore, just as each of the other digits can be paired to make 10, while 5 remains alone, so Adam had to remain alone until his equal was evolved. This is a mathematical proof of the equality of the sexes. The true man, like number 5, is composed of the masculine and feminine principles, for 5 is made up of the masculine 3 and the feminine 2. On this account the Pythagoreans taught that number 5 rules marriage. Number 5 is called the number of the heart because it stands unpaired in the center of the decade, 10, as the heart stands an unpaired organ in the center of the body. 5 is also called the beam or balance since, like the heart, it stands at the center of the cross formed by the upright body and the outstretched arms. This indicates that one important object of man's evolution is to attain balance upon the cross of matter, for the Christ in him must be crucified upon this cross until balance is attained. Again, man is the being through which the scales of the universe, spirit, and matter must be balanced. The ancients had a maxim, pass not above the beam of the balance, that is, be not cause of injury, for they said, let the members in a series form a balance beam. Thus when a weight depresses the beam, an obtuse angle is formed by the depressed side and the thumb vertical, and an acute angle on the other. Hence it is worse to do than to suffer injury, and the authors of injury sink down to the infernal regions, but the injured rise to the gods. Since, however, injustice pertains to inequality, equalization is necessary, which is effected by addition and subtraction. But reference to number 5 as the balance beam has a far greater significance than appears on the surface, for it again refers to man's place at the midpoint in the scale of evolution, where he must not only gain balance within himself, but must become the beam by which the lower kingdoms shall be lifted up, weight and matter redeemed by the power of the Christ working through him. The same idea is expressed frequently in the Bible, much importance being given to a just balance, just balances, just weights, a just ephah, and a just hin shall ye have. The book of Job being but an allegory of initiation, Job is made to say, "Let me be weighed in an even balance, that God may know mine integrity." Indeed, this is what initiation does. Hence, to obtain the higher initiations we must seek balance and not be tossed hither and thither by the pairs of opposites, the two, but balance them through the power of the divine, the three, within. A false balance is abomination to the Lord, the law, but a just weight is his delight. When King Belshazzar, the last king of Babylon, was judged, the 5 fingers of a man's hand wrote over against the candlestick upon the plaister of the wall of the king's palace, and the king saw the part of the hand that wrote. And this is the writing that was written, mean, God hath numbered thy kingdom, and finished it. Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances, and art found wanting. Peres, thy kingdom is divided. Thus the division of man's kingdom is ever the final result of an unjust balance, for through an unjust balance the pairs of opposites sweep man away from the A of the divine, the 3 and the 2 are separated and his kingdom is divided, the earthly, 4, is separated from the divine, 1. Among the Greeks the number 5 was held so sacred that on the lintels of their temples where the numerals were carved, the number 5 was inlaid in pure gold. This numeral was also carved on an amulet and worn around the neck by the Greeks and Romans as a protection against evil spirits. 5 refers to the 5 sacred words, corresponding to the 5 sacred words of Brahma, said to have been written upon the shining garment of Jesus at his glorification, namely, Zama Zama Ozza Rachama Ozai, which is translated the robe, the glorious robe of my strength. The reality back of this symbol is that number 5 represents the 5 mystic powers which must be attained and manifested through the robe of flesh by every resurrected initiate after he has passed his 3 days in the tomb, ere he can attain the great initiation symbolized by the resurrection of Jesus. These 5 mystic powers are the result of the unfoldment and use of man's 5 senses upon the inner planes of consciousness. Today the true use of man's senses is as it were covered with a veil, so that only in exceptional cases is one here and there able to extend the functioning of his senses to the inner worlds. Clairvoyance, while often called a 6th sense, is but the extension of the sense of sight to include the astral world, clairaudience, the extension of hearing, psychometry, the sense of touch, etc., taste and smell being generally overlooked. But this is only drawing aside one corner of the veil. For when man dons the glorious robe of his strength, he will find the functioning of his senses extended as far beyond the astral as the range of a color is extended by the multiplication of its shadings. And out of the synthesis of all these extended senses there will be evolved a new or 6th sense which will be incomprehensible to the man who is confined to a more limited use of his senses, and from the perfection of the 6th sense a 7th will be evolved. It is to the experiences of these higher worlds, reached momentarily during periods of meditation and contemplation, which St. Paul alluded when he said they were unlawful, i.e., impossible, to utter or express in words. The body thus glorified through the 5 powers is called the Robe of Initiation. Unless the neophyte has donned this robe and manifested its powers in the flesh, the great initiation has not been passed. These powers become 7 only after the robe of physical existence has been laid aside and the soul has donned the glorious, immortal body of the resurrection, the seamless robe of Jesus, called the Nermanakia robe, or the body of the fire breath. In other words, man is the Lord of creation when he has woven the 5 mystic powers into his body and donned the glorious robe of his strength. But when he has donned the Nermanakia body, he has become more than man. This should give the student a glimpse of what ultimate mastery means, yet it should not discourage him, for we see the miracle being foreshadowed every day in momentary glimpses and visions of the higher worlds, and we have the prophecy given us in symbolic dreams. Man or humanity has 3 divine offices or functions: prophet, priest, and king, and 2 physical expressions, male and female, through which the divine functions must be manifested on earth ere perfection is attained. As he transmits the will of the divine to earth, he becomes the prophet in the true meaning of the word, i.e., one who speaks as the inspired representative of a divine being or interprets the divine will. As he mediates between the lower and the higher and holds out his hands in blessing, he becomes the priest, and as he rules himself and all the lower kingdoms, he becomes the king who is Lord over all. As long as man instills enmity, cruelty, and antagonism into the lower kingdoms by his ruthless slaughter of birds and animals for sport, etc., and slays his fellow men in war, the lower kingdoms will retaliate. The curse which God is represented as placing on the lower kingdoms when man was turned out of Eden was in reality a prophecy of the karma which man must continue to reap from the lower kingdoms because of the forces he places upon them, his resulting suffering and death slowly bringing about an awakening to his true heritage, i.e., his power as priest to bless all kingdoms. And verily, just as the curse has operated and still operates today, so shall the blessing, until some day man shall find himself king and ruler over all the kingdoms of earth.